Bada boom, bada bang. I'm up and live. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. Dun, 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 dun. How's everybody doing? Mm, 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 mm. Oh, man. Let's see. All right. So, book that I'm going to be going over. Let's see. Hold on. Let me add these. So that way I can get this party started. Just waiting for it to pop up. Hmm. Weird. All right, let me try this again. Let's get this. Yep, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Oh man, I ain't got the other light up. Hold on. There we go. All right, so this book, all right. First one I'm going to talk about is the Learn to Read Biblical Hebrew by Jeff Benner. I've actually had the opportunity to speak to Jeff Benner, and he's on my podcast on my YouTube channel. I think this is a very interesting book to read. Here, I'll bring it up real quick. I have all his books on my Kindle, so that's it right there. Let me adjust this mic. There we go. Let's see. So let's see. Let's see what I found interesting and what I learned. Okay, so basically, I'm gonna read just a part of what he talked about in his introduction and why to learn Hebrew. And I felt like this is important because it's better to understand um, the importance of going to the origins of what we know as the Bible, and ancient Hebrew and Aramaic seems to be the go-to sources. So he writes in here, he says, why learn Hebrew? And he says a translation of the biblical text is a translator's interpretation of the text. Now, that to me tells me basically, just like with any ancient text, is that whoever is translating that text to the best of their ability, they're doing it based off their opinion. So that's why you have many times one word will mean different things, like Adam, for instance. Adam means man, mankind, or it's a name for a person, right? So that right there helped me understand. A lot of times people can pick a word to fit their narrative on whatever it is they're reading. It's not really that hard to do. At least I don't think so, because of the simple fact that if you take your own interpretation, your own understanding from your cultural views, you will have a different idea on what some people consider what we can go as easy as good or bad, and that's why there's always these arguments about what should happen to certain people for certain things. um that was the only thing that I really found interesting when you read his books. I don't want to go into detail into it because I can't explain it like how he did. So if you want to understand what he means about how to learn how to learn how to read ancient Hebrew, he has these books that give you like the basics of it. So this is a really good way to start. I can't go through the whole book, of course, but this should be a stepping stone for anybody that's interested in actually learning the language for themselves, or at least getting to the origins of uh, understanding what the biblical text actually say. So the second one is, of course, Learn to Read Biblical Volume 2, which is this one right here, right? Like I said, I have it on my Kindle. Um, let's see. So in this introduction, he says in his book that in my book, Learn to Read Hebrew, Biblical Hebrew, the reader learned the Hebrew alphabet and a few Hebrew words. In the final lesson, the reader was introduced to basic Hebrew syntax. So basically, he was just telling you what from his first one, what he does. And he gives you the consonants in here. He gives it's I, for me, to be honest with you, the only way this can be explained in lamer terms is by reading his books. I wouldn't do his book any justice, but like I said, these two books so far that I just showed are what you're going to get on ancient Hebrew. It talks about the art, the nouns, it talks about articles, conjunctions, and prepositions. It talks about adjectives, and it gives you the basis of stuff. He gives you like different scriptures, and he basically gives you what words mean what. I'll give you an example. Let's look for Elohim, transliteration Elohim, right? Translation, powerful one. Morphology, the base word is the masculine noun. I've actually had the luxury, like I said, of having a discussion with him, and we talked about the Elohim. And right here where it says morphology, the base word is the masculine noun Eloah. Strong's Concordance number 433, meaning power or powerful one. And then it goes into the M, the IYM is the masculine plural suffix. So this is interesting to understand, is in understanding what or who the Elohim is, right? You got, I've even asked him personally, could the Anuna / Anunnaki been the Elohim? And for you to get that answer, you got to go to my YouTube channel and listen to it. But it's interesting because I don't just read books. I actually read these books and have discussions with these individuals. So when I have a question that I don't really understand or I need more detail on, you can go through my YouTube channel and see that I actually spoke to some of these individuals. I've done plenty of discussions with authors and scientists around the world from peer-reviewed articles that I've read that I had questions. I question these people. Okay. This is something that I do. I just don't go, okay, that makes sense to me, or it might not make sense to me, but because I don't have a degree, I don't follow it, I shouldn't worry about it. I actually try to do my due diligence and speak and understand everything that's going on. So I actually have these conversations. I email people all the time these questions. Sometimes I get my answers in emails. I mean, there's times when I've asked people for a discussion and they say no. Usually when I ask somebody for a discussion, I give them at least 10 questions that I want to ask. And most of the time they'll say, hey, I don't really do this for whatever reason they give me. And they'll give me answers to my 10 questions that will help me on my journey of gaining knowledge. So I always challenge somebody or have a discussion with somebody that I couldn't sit here and want the truth and not expect somebody to challenge me. I want people to challenge me. The only problem is nobody challenges me because all I do is share what I've read. I don't share my opinion. I don't share what I think the facts are. I don't share none of that stuff. All I do is just share what I've read, and that's it. So if you're going to try to debunk me, you're not debunking me. You're just telling me what I read is incorrect, and I would take that with a grain of salt and do my due diligence and continue my research. But telling me that I'm wrong is, you're not telling me I'm wrong, because I just read the book. In order for me to debunk or tell somebody that they're incorrect in their information, I have to do my due diligence and research. Now, if that person is as confident as they are, minus the ego, along with wanting to know the truth, if they are questioned by somebody that goes against something that they say, then they should, or I feel like they should have the respect to answer. If you feel like you have the answers to everything, then you know what? Then nobody else is worth following. Nobody else is worth interested in learning from, because guess what? You're the person that say you have all the answers. So obviously you don't care about anybody else. People don't like to be challenged. I love being challenged. It helps me remember more and easier and better when people challenge me, because guess what? When you challenge me and I did find out that I was wrong in something, I am going to remember that better than just reading a book, because I don't want to repeat the same stupid crap again. I don't want somebody to say, I already told you that that's not true. Why would you repeat it? Yeah, why would I repeat the same stupid stuff after I already been told that I was wrong and I should have did my due diligence and research behind it and actually found out what was what and what wasn't. That's a lot of problems that I see from anybody. I have asked people questions. Sometimes I might be a little rough and assertive or whatever, throwing words they want to throw out there, but get your feelings to the side and just look at the words. If you're mad, I don't know how to challenge somebody nicely. You know what I'm saying? I really don't know how to challenge somebody now nicely. And people need to be challenged, because that can tell you who is actually confident in what they do and what they know, versus the ones that just say, hey, I'm just going to keep finding people who believe me. There are people who don't believe that we as a human being race did the stuff that we did around the world. So they give credit to aliens, right? And there are people who don't believe in the Bible but believe in aliens, right? There are people who are atheists and say they don't believe in any gods or anything else, but then turn around and be like, hey, I seen a UFO, right? Or I believe in UFOs. Well, what's the difference, really, right? Neither one of these things are from what I understand, extraterrestrials are not from planet Earth, right? And if aliens aren't from planet Earth, that just tells you one thing right there. They're all under the label of extraterrestrials. Now you can get into your feelings and be like, well, extraterrestrials and aliens aren't gods. Well, I don't know. Nobody knows what God looks like, right? That's what a lot of people would say. So how do you know that it's in the likeness? A likeness can be anything, personality. The likeness can be in the personalities. The likeness could be in a thought process. It doesn't say physical. It doesn't say look like us, walk like us, talk like us, right? Come on. And honestly, let's just be honest. Angels don't look like us. They have likeness of us. They have some type of stuff. If you look at the way, if they're in the human state, right? But if you actually look at and read the description of angels, kind of scary. But understanding what is written in the actual ancient text is what I get a better description of. So that's why I say read these books. I can see, let me see. Yeah, I don't have any tabs on this one. That's interesting. And the only reason why is because it's just basically the transliterations of all the words, or not all the words, but most of the words that he came in contact with. Let's see if I can find another one that's very interesting. No, not really. I have to go through this whole book, but it it's a really good book to get in information and stuff like that. So you got that one. So the next one is going to be, let's see, because this space is going to be there. This room is going to be kind of slow, short. So the next one is The Living Words, Volume 1, a study of Hebrew words and concepts from the Old and New Testaments. And like I said, I got this one on my Kindle too. I love a Kindle. Having a Kindle is amazing, because it's very easy to go to your notes when you need something close by. So yeah, here's something. Let's see okay. This is where I always tell people. I always tell people this when I have these discussion about the Bible. And a matter of fact, I always read this part. Well, I don't read it out exactly, but I always make sure I read this part. As all modern day translations of the Bible are written from a Western perspective, right? And have erased the original Hebraic Eastern perspective of the original words in the text. So basically, that's where the translation gets messed up, because most people would translate it in their Western perspective ideas versus in the Hebraic words. And that's where, like I said earlier, that gives me more understanding of what's actually written in the text, because you got to go back to the beginning. A good point that he made was most people simply assume everyone everywhere thinks in pretty much the same manner. This could not be further from the truth, right? And that's why we have so many people that, like I just said, challenging people, right? You read something and then you find out that that's not actually correct, and then you challenge the other person, and that person may be in their feelings or whatever, and they don't want to be challenged. But that goes with the ego. But you can't take away from facts, right? And He has another part in here about the culture, and he says the Hebrew language, as is the case with every language, is closely tied to the culture, right? And that's very important. Like I just said earlier, when you're translating things from your understanding, from your cultural views, and so on and so forth, you're going to translate things differently. That's why one word can mean many different words. It's just not, the word that makes you feel good, because the narrative that you want to create is anybody can create a narrative as long as you know how to pick which words and make it sound right, right? Let's see. Let's go into yeah, see, like most Bible readers assume the English translation of the Bible is an equivalent and exact representation of the original text. I mean, I've been just saying it for like the last 15 minutes, that that's not the case. You have to go to the origins. You can't assume, you can't take what you felt like you feel good in your narrative and so on and so forth. You can't take that into and apply it into your facts. That's not how things work. You got to take what the factual words are, have these different discussions with people, and see what, the better way how to get these things, right? Let's see. Lord and God. So of course he has a section in here about God. And let's see. Let me see if I could just cut this whole paragraph down. Okay, so yeah, one of the most fascinating, I guess you could say, image of God that we usually have is similar to the Michelangelo's painting of God. And that's like I said earlier, nobody knows exactly what God looks like. So having a picture or depiction or a drawing of what God is, nobody would know. We can just come up with our own interpretations and what we think we've seen, right? Let's see the next one. Oh, hold up. It's got to load them up sometime. Okay, so here we go. The meaning of light comes from the verbal root or, meaning to illuminate. So, whenever that could mean a lot of things to anything. God led them by light, a light appeared in the sky. All it means is really to illuminate. So, I mean, we can all take that how we want to. But there's no really way for me to sit here and say one is or the other. I just found that interesting because, like I said, light and illuminate. I just found that to add that to my little collection of knowledge. Let's see. Hell. He talks about hell. Now I do know that hell, and I can't remember. I want to see if it's in this one where I read it at. Was basically it was like a grave or a trash place, but I don't know if it's from here that I have read it. Okay, so look, so he does talk about how the Hebrew word shell, Sheol, is either hell or grave. So hell and grave could be the same. So everybody that's buried in the cemetery in the gravesite, guess what? They're in hell. Don't bite the messenger. I'm just telling you what I've read or what I understand. If he's telling me that hell and grave may be the translated word of the word shell, then for me to understand that means that everybody that's buried in the gravesite cemetery is in hell right now. All right. Take that how you want to. Let's see. I want to know where I read where it's a garbage heap. I can't remember exactly where I read that at. Let's see. Nope, not here. But it does continue to talk about the grave stuff, which I read before. Okay, so in the New Testament, we find 3 words translated as hell, and I remember reading about these. I can't pronounce them. He has them in his book, so you're gonna have to get it. But um, let's see. Under the same section, he says the Greek word Gehenna, Geenna, is a transliteration of 2 Hebrew words, Gai, meaning valley. So this all falls under the hell portion of what we do. So you can do a valley. So you can say a valley is part of hell or a grave site. But I want to know where I read that it was. Okay, yeah, we got the Greek mythology, the deep abyss, and let's see. Man, I can't remember where I read that from. So I'm gonna have to find that because that's another thing that struck me interesting. So here we go. The firmament, like this can start so many arguments. The firmament, right? People start arguing about the firmament. But okay, so of course in the Bible in Genesis 1, uh, chapter 1, verse 6, it says, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Um, he goes into a whole explanation about this, and basically, um, the translative word firmament comes from the root word rakah, R-A-Q-A, which can be found in several passages, including Isaiah. And rakah was the process of hammering out a piece of gold or other metal into thin plates, which I found interesting because I remember that too. I remember reading that about the firmament and having gold uh, as a combination. And I found that interesting because not for nothing, Zachariah Sitchin's take on needing gold for an atmosphere. So I always found that very interesting, because when I read Zachariah Sitchin, even though nowhere in the actual Sumerian text it says anything about the Anunnaki coming to planet Earth from planet Nibiru that orbited our sun every 3,600 years, needed gold for their planet. There's nothing that says that, right? There's only one depiction that gives Zachariah Sitchin that idea, and that's cylinder seal VA243. Now, if you actually read the inscriptions on cylinder seal VA243, it has nothing to do with the planet. It's mostly doing with the servant. And I'll leave that there. But because I know what Zachariah Sitchin shared in his books about his idea about them needing gold for their planet. Like I said, the word raka was the process of hammering out a piece of gold or other metal into thin plates, which was then applied to a carved or cast image, as we read in Numbers 16:31. And Eleazar, the priest, took the copper censers, which they brought near and were burnt, and they were hammered out, raka, into plates for the altar. So that all that stuff, depending on the person's interpretation, if you ask the person this information and you pass this information off to this person, meaning Jeff Benner, if Zachariah Sitchin was able to present his information and Jeff Benner was able to ask him questions about it and stuff like that, they could have probably came up with something that maybe agree to disagree kind of thing. I'm not sure. That's why I think it's important for everybody to have these discussions, because if you truly want to have an honest discussion and get to the bottom of the truth, if I'm passing something like this on, then, or if anybody's passing something on to me, I should do my due diligence and research before I debunk them. If somebody's telling me something, the next thing, if I didn't know anything about it, never read the material or anything like that, was never presented that into my life at all, before I say anything, the first thing I should say is, hey, I need to look into that more and see what you're saying. And maybe, hey, can you help me with some sources or give me this? And 9 times out of 10, if somebody says you got to go do your own research, that means they just heard it from somebody else and never really did their own search, because it's too easy to remember something that's very important to you, right? Like, I know which books that are very important to me to make my point across for certain things. And I know plenty of people do that. If you don't have that kind of access or remember, then you don't really care to actually present the truth or get to the bottom of what you're saying you want to do. Uh, all right, here's the last one. Everybody wants to know what a soul is. So in the Hebrew mind, he says that we are composed of multiple entities: flesh, bone, breath, mind, emotion, and organs, and so on, right? That's, the soul. And this is, I kind of agree with this a lot, because nobody knows what the soul is. I mean, we have the Ba, the Ka, and then we have, the souls, and we have different you even have astral projection for people that will consider that part of the soul leaving the body or so, whatever. But here he he says the soul is the whole of the person, the unity of the body, breath, and mind. And that's, I I don't know how to take that and explain that into words that make other people understand. So I want you to understand, um, the soul, according to Jeff Brenner, and many other people that I read. The reason why I'm talking about Jeff Benner is because I found these books interesting, and I highly recommend everybody buying these books from Kindle, Amazon, or wherever you can get your books from. He says that it's flesh, bone, breath, motion, mind, emotion, organs, and etc. and so on. The soul is the whole of the person. So when you're looking at somebody, you're looking at their soul, right? And you can see in their eyes what kind of person they are. That's what some people say. So I find that very interesting. Um, let's see. I don't know if I have another. Let me see. What I think I have one more book that I'm gonna do. Hold on. Let me see. Let's see. Did I do 4 books already? I did that one. I did that one. Yep, I did 4 books. So yeah, that's 25 minutes. So the next ones is going to be the last 5 books of Jeff Benner's that I have, and then I'm going to go to some of my hard copy books. I did Jeff Benner's books because I find that Jeff Benner's books are very information and for more informative. I can't even talk right now. They're good books to buy. All right. He goes in detail. He tries to give you the understanding. He breaks it down and says this is his opinion, his translations. He uses other sources to help him back up his stuff, just like anybody, this is not towards him or anybody in particular, but anybody can find enough evidence from books to back up their claim. Enough people can find enough peer review articles to back up their claim. And what I mean by that is most people will say, hey, let's say this scientist said this and it might be out extraordinary, and then another scientist will say, hey, that's not right, that's inaccurate, that's not true. And that's why they say peer review articles are important. But I really feel like for the most part, nobody knows what happened in the past, right? Everything is a translation from a translation. And I can tell you from personal experience that when I look at some of the names that some of these people, not Jeff Benner in particular, but anybody, when I look at the names of the people they use for their sources, sometimes later on you'll read that their source was wrong. So they would use a source that was wrong, promote it today's terms, and say that it was right. I've heard people say, a lot of times, they don't read books pre 1800. They read all books before that, or pre World War One or pre World War Two. And I can tell you from personal experience, yes, some of that information is going to be correct as far as for that time frame, but that doesn't mean that that's the facts and that's correct for this time frame. That's why things always get updated. The problem is that a lot of people, and I can tell you from personal experience, they don't care to go to the truth. There's been too many times when I dropped a little gem on the ground and people complain what kind of gem it is, right? Whatever it is, right? And it's funny to me because all I do is share what I've learned. So if you don't have the time to do what I do, you should say, okay, this dude said he read this book, he spoke enough, he back up what he said. Maybe I should look into this because this will help you on your journey. I'm on a journey just learning as much as I can. I don't care about creating a narrative because I can tell you right now, I can give you my opinion today, right now, tomorrow. If I finish this book, another book that I'm reading is a Deja Vu book from Alexander I can't say his last name, but I've done a podcast with him. He's an author. When I finish that book, my opinion can change about a lot of things. So what I'm saying is, if you stick in the same idea and same narrative of what you believe, even when new information is given, if you're always running back to saying, hey, this is aliens, or hey, this is that, then you're failing yourself. I don't look for confirmations. I look for contradictions. That's what I look for. I want to know what it is and why the person goes your information is not accepted around the world. What are you doing that's wrong? What did you say that's wrong? What did you limit yourself at? And 9 times out of 10 is because people have a narrative, right? If somebody don't want to believe in God but believe in aliens, and you can convince 100,000 people that there are aliens out there, that's 100,000 people that's going to get you paid and make you money, right? Because you can fool them. And if you have the time, if you have the talent, if you have the personality, and all this other stuff, if that's all you want to do with your life, then that's okay, right? There's a lot of things like that. I know a lot of people say, I do multiple things around the world, and I do multiple things around with my family and so on and so forth. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about simply is that if you only looking for something that verifies your information, and that's what your narrative is, then you're limiting yourself. You should always look for a contradiction, and you should see which one has the best and most probable evidence, right? There's people all around the world. And I know that for a lot of people who do have a lot of money, if you have the ability to pay this scientists and help them do their stuff and expand their research, they are credited. They have the same degrees and everything else. So yes, I would take them prominent, but we as a group of people should be challenging them and asking them for the actual facts. We should be wanting the actual knowledge. I can't remember what video I was watching two different videos, and people were complaining about the color of the planets, right? Well, not everybody sees in the same color, right? There's people that are colorblindness, and people's programs from computers are made from people, right? So if somebody's in charge of seeing something a certain way, they can make a mistake. And other people will accept it because they think they did the right thing. That's why it's up to us to always be able to provide the facts and stuff like that. So in reality, to me personally, there's too much money involved for people to want to get to the facts, because if once we get to the facts, what's going to be the arguments for? What are all the arguments going to be needed? What are people going to talk about? Everybody's going to have the same exact knowledge. Everybody's going to know the same exact thing, right? So that's why I feel like that there are people that would talk to certain groups of individuals and not talk to other people. You should always have somebody that contradicts yourself, not somebody that's just going to be like, oh yeah, I'm a fan and I just want to contradict you because I want to be labeled. No, stop the bullshit. That shit needs to stop now. We've been like nice too long for history to get to the point where where it's at right now. It's crazy that you can share something, or you hear somebody say something, you ask them for a source and they'll tell you, just go do your own research. I've done mine. I did this, I did that. Okay, now provide that time and give it to other people, right? Stop. I hate the word opinion. I really hate the word opinion, because that some people want to hear other people's opinion because they want to use that same opinion to back up what they said. Forget the opinions. Let's stick to the facts. And that's the end of it. Y'all take it easy. I'll catch y'all next time.